now we've all been waiting for Dr. Kamiar Kouzekanani, Professor Emeritus.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me to your church. I have known Django, I was thinking, goes back to 2013, I believe. I was still a marathon runner, and I had 4 marathons left to finish my task. And I had knee issues, and I was suggested to go to him. And then whatever he did helped me to finish the goal. And then we have been friends since then. I was here for his wedding some months ago, and so this is my second time in your church. And as Django said, I retired a year and a half ago, and so for 35 plus years I was the classroom teacher at the universities. And since then, since retired, this is the first time I'm in front of an audience. So I taught the statistics, quantitative methods, as you may imagine, it's a difficult subject matter. So students were quiet. No one ever spoke. I was the only one in the class to talk. But hopefully as I talk a little about Iran, if you have questions, you can ask me, and I do my best to answer them. As Django mentioned, I was 18 years old when I came to US. It's an easy day to remember, January 1, 1975. I left Iran because of time difference. I was in Norman, Oklahoma that evening. Flew Tehran to London to Chicago, Braniff Airlines. Anyone remembers Braniff Airlines? From Chicago to Oklahoma City, and then they told us, I was going to study English at University of Oklahoma. I just go downstairs, take a cab, tell the cab driver, take me to this address. The cab driver turned out to be Iranian, so I didn't, that was a time that we were coming to US in hundreds. This was before the Iranian Revolution, and the country was prospering, there was oil money, we were bringing the oil money back, and we're going to university. So that's where I started my life in the US in Oklahoma. And graduated Oklahoma State. As I was my senior year, 78, the revolution in Iran started happening. And then it finalized in April of 1979. So Iran became an Islamic republic. Before that, we were monarchy. We had king. And so the original name of the country, you all have heard that, is Persia. And then 1935, I understand Iran's ambassador in Germany suggested changing the name from Persia to Iran. And it is Iran. It's not Iran, it's not Iran, it's Iran. And interesting, it's a female name. There are some female Iranians whose first name is Iran, which refers to the land of Aryas or Aryans, people in that part of the world. So many refer to us as Persians or Iranians. Some of you may remember there was a hostage crisis right after the Iranian Revolution, late 79, 80. I was at graduate school at UC Davis in California. And that was a very difficult time for us in the US because you had hostages in Iran, and here we were students, and then so some of us stopped using the word Iran and Iranians. So we thought it's better we just say we are Persians rather than Iranians. And there were tough times. I never forget, I had to go to Sacramento to get fingerprinted, and this is what they did, just to make sure who we are and where we are. So that was 1980, and then, so Iran is an old country. It goes back thousands of years. But 1971, I was a high school student. I was still in Iran. We celebrated the 2,500 years of Iran's civilization. It was a big ceremony, and nowadays, even if you Google it, you go to YouTube, you'll see videos, pictures, and the Shah was in power. People from all over the world, all the famous presidents, and you name it, they were all in Shiraz for that, celebrating 2,500 years of history. But I was just doing a little Google search, and it said actually the first city, we say Shush, was built around 3,200 BC. And so it goes back. There is a lot to see there. And unfortunately, there is this, people don't feel very safe to go to Iran, even though it is a safe country. I didn't go there for 20 years after the revolution because I was still eligible for military service. So if I went, I couldn't come back. Then it was 1998, there was this moderate president, and said, well, you guys who live in there, you can come once a year to visit and go back. So I have been going back on a regular basis since 1998. And haven't had any problems getting in, getting out. And I have my US passport, one pocket my Iranian passport, because they don't consider us US citizens when we go there. So we joke about it when we enter the airport going through passport control. I think they smell us. They know that we don't live in Iran, but it's interesting. You enter, you show your Iranian passport, they stamp it, and then when we are returning, when we go to the airport, when I check in for my flight, I have to show my U.S. passport so that I can come back to U.S. Then passport control show them my Iranian passport. And then as we board the plane, show them the U.S. passport. And of course, we come to U.S., then you're here. Fortunately, there's a different colors, so we don't confuse the Iranian passport with, but they don't mind it. Actually, a couple of times at the airport, the passport officer asked, can I see your U.S. passport? He just wanted to see my U.S. Passport. Okay, this is my U.S. So I told you about the name of Iran, the age of Iran, who founded the Iran. The one we refer to, and many of you have heard of him, is Cyrus the Great. He was big on human rights, and still you go to Israel, they like him because what he did to free Jews and all that. So, and then we became Islamic Republic in 1979. And then, so when Django asked me, this was some months ago, he said, why don't you come to our church and talk about Iran? I said, okay, I'll come and talk about Iran. And now I was talking with one of, now Iran is in the news for the past 3 or 4 weeks because of some protests. And so I don't know what may happen or not happen because of this. The government is very powerful. And, but as of now, I'm scheduled to go to Iran on November 1st. So I don't know whether I will still do it or postpone the trip because of what's going on there. Our language is Farsi, Persian or Farsi, and has 32 alphabets. This calligraphy is just Farsi. I cannot read it, but this is an art, and I have a couple of, these are all calligraphy. It's an art there. So you go there, you can get shirts, scarf, ladies, they have fancy things with, and then they can read it. They can tell you what it's written. But I cannot read this. Django was asking, can you read it? No, I'm sorry. I just put it on so that I'm wearing something from Iran. The language is spoken in some other countries in that part of the world. Afghanistan, they speak Farsi. And then Tajikistan to the north, these were all part of the Soviet Union, now they're all independent countries, and they speak Farsi. And it's a very rich language. And my understanding is it's not that difficult to learn to speak it. So it was easy for me to learn it because I was born there. But I remember my uncle, his wife, she passed away a few years ago. She was from Norway, and they lived in Iran, and she could very easily speak Farsi. She just learned it when she was there. Economy is a rich country, but now has lots of poor people because of mismanagement of natural resources, maldistribution of wealth. There's corruption. Most of these countries when there is lots of oil money. And then, and of course sanctions. They have been dealing with sanctions. So the government there blames the US. Our economy is bad because of sanctions. There is some truth to that, but I also believe there are some other issues that they are not willing to talk about it. But Iran has a very powerful middle class. I mean, I've been going there. I've been going there since 1998, and it's a very educated country. Not many know that high percentage of people there are college graduates, and there are more female college students than males. And that's another thing you may not know. But, so women in Iran, it's hard being a female in Iran, but still they work. I mean, they can travel. My sister, she's an anesthesiologist and works there, and is doing fine. But there are some restrictions. This latest one, you probably saw that on because of the hijab that they have to. Sometimes there is this morality police. They're giving them a hard time. I've seen that myself. It's not you see it everywhere, but it just happens at random. I mean, I never forget. A few years ago, I was traveling the city of Isfahan, which is a very famous city, and then this young woman, she was bicycling, and I saw her. A few minutes later, she was being arrested by this. So she was grabbing her bike. You know, they wanted to, because that's why you are not supposed to bicycle in the public. It's just silly, but. So these things still happen there at random. Tourism. Iran could make more money from tourism than from oil. But again, people, did I break your, no, it just was working. Iran is safe to visit, but they tell you not to go by yourself, go with a tour group. People from Europe, they go, and Far East Asia. And then this man wants to visit me in Iran. I've said that many times. Once you're there, I come, okay. And I have a place for you to come and stay with me. I travel a lot. I just returned from Eastern Europe a week ago, and I go to all these places, see all these attractions, and then I see, okay, we have many more in Iran, but it's just this fear of going there. And if you can make it there with your US dollar, it's cheap, because US dollar rules, and you convert it into US dollar. Gee, I stayed in this 5-star hotel with breakfast, and I paid $45. per night, and that's a good deal. And so Europeans know, but these people in Far East Asia, they know, so they take advantage of that and visit the country. We are a Muslim country. I was born into a Muslim family. I brought a copy of the Quran. I have never read it. When I was in elementary school, we had once a week a religious class, so I learned some of the verses. So I'm not an expert in Islam, so I told Django, I hope your congregation don't think that I am an Islamic scholar, and so we were Zoroastrian before becoming Muslims. And Iran became Islamic country after Arabs captured Iran. And whether it's a folk belief or real belief, they gave an option to Iranians to either pay and remain Zoroastrian or become Muslim. I guess they were cheap, didn't pay, and decided to become Muslims. So Iran is a Muslim country. Some of you may know there are two branches in Islam. One is Shia, one is Sunni. Iran is Shia. And most of Muslims in the world are Sunnis. And so there is a struggle between the two. And I think deep inside they don't like each other. Shia Muslims and Sunni Muslims. But Iran is probably over 95% Shia. Another country which has many Shias is Iraq. But the rest of the Middle East, and then you go to like Indonesia, which is the most populated Muslim country, they're all Sunnis. And then since the revolution, the Sharia laws, you might have heard, Iran is run based on those laws. And I don't know much about them. And so basically everything there is based on the Quran. If the Quran says this, you have to do it. So definitely this reason about forcing women to cover, you don't show your hair or anything is because it's in the Quran. I have always said in my adult life, here we have this separation of church and state. Just make sure we keep it that way. That's my personal belief, because I can see what could happen if you just follow the holy book and then you don't like it, you look up and say, well, it's his will, it's God's will. We have to do it like that. And so you hear that a lot in a traditional Muslim country, God's will. And so you go to mosque have imams, they issue fatwa, they call it. Do this. I'm telling you, do this. Then you do it. Whom do you blame? The imam. Imam said, so I didn't do anything wrong. And so actually I will go to heaven because I've followed what the imam said to do. So growing up in Iran, I used to fast the month of Ramadan. And I think one reason I did that because I was chubby growing up. So during that month of Ramadan, I was losing, some. But it's a good thing to do, actually. I'm just going to put my finger here. Anyways. So that's about the Islam. Iran is famous for its handicrafts. I brought a few from my home. This morning I grabbed them, and a couple of books of pictures from Iran. This thing, I think you can hear me. There's not an English word for it. It's called khatam. Closest translation I've seen is mosaic. Look at pieces they put together. So this is the clock. You can find anything made. Okay, so yeah. My home, it works with the battery. So you see the pieces, and how much you pay for it depends upon how small of pieces they are. So if it's a small, you pay more for it. Still works as a battery. I have it in my, it's called khatam. And you go to the store, you can buy a dinner table. You have to pay lots of money for this. These are all hand paintings. I brought a few small ones, and then you saw the calligraphy. Was this? Yeah. Okay. So if you go there, especially those of you who like shopping, you go to bazaar, to this store, you probably start crying because you don't know what to do, which one. I mean, I like them all. And if that day comes, make sure you bargain with them. And if you are with an Iranian, he or she can help you to bargain with them. You never pay what they ask you. That's just... And I, as I've traveled other countries, it's not limited to Iran. There are other places you can bargain. I was so tempted to bring a Persian rug, a small one. I have few in my home, but changed my mind. So otherwise you could have seen a... I brought Persian rug some years ago. Each time I went to Iran, I brought a piece. And so now I have some Persian. You go to the home of an Iranian, there is a Persian rug there. You know, whether they're middle class, lower class, upper class, there's Persian rug in Iran. And then I brought some cookies. I ordered them here. These are very delicate cookies. So I got a box. Most of it was not presentable because they were turning to crumbs. So I went through and picked the ones that were still, they're delicious, they're very light. So maybe there will be enough for to taste one of it. One is rice flour, the other one is chickpea. And they're very light, and that's why it's not good to order them online and for Amazon too. But I couldn't find them in a store here. There is a store in Everhart, Middle Eastern has some, but I just ordered them online and just to have a taste of Iran. Food is good there. You go there, you gain weight. And it's just as simple as that. It's just rice is, and then they have rice with different stews, and then of course with kebab. And if you happen to be in Houston, there is a large Iranian community in Houston, and you go to Hillcroft, and there are Iranian restaurants, and we don't have here. This Middle Eastern, he has a couple of items which he claims are from Iran, but they're mainly Middle Eastern food. well, that's all I had prepared to say. So